Just like all the best trips, this one wasn't planned. A last-minute message over Discord encouraged me to pack a backpack and wait outside my house for my friend Alex. By the time the sun was beginning to sink lower in the sky, the sound of an engine coughing woke me from a bored stupor. "Hey," Alex celebrated as both the passenger doors fell open with a metallic screech. "Made it without having to restart at a red light this time." "Great. Why don't I believe you?" I called back and shimmied into the passenger seat, crunching the door closed behind me using the bungee cord that was hanging from the glove department handle to keep it from flying open during the drive. Alex reattached his to a broken AC vent on the dashboard. "You have got to get a new car." "You know I can't. Jerome worked way too hard on this beauty." "Well, his handiwork is kind of falling apart without him." "Believe me, I know." Alex stomped on the gas pedal, sending the truck lurching forward. "Why do I agree to these?" "Because you have a craving for fresh adventure that can never be quenched by sitting in your bedroom scrolling through U-Book or whatever it is." "Right. It couldn't possibly be because you need supervision when you're pulling stunts like this." "What stunts?" He tossed me a beaten paperback book. "This is a research trip." As he accelerated, I braced myself against the leather seat and squinted at the bold yellow text strewn across a once sepia-toned cover. Hans Christian Andersen's The Mother? I gotta see that garden. "What garden?" "Death's Garden. Have you not read the fairy tale?" "I thought all the moms were dead in fairy tales." Not this one. You should read the book." "Just give me the summary." Alex sighed exasperatedly. "No appreciation for physical media anymore." "Okay. A mom wakes up and finds out that her son has been taken by death, so she goes through all sorts of dangerous and perilous quests to find him. By the time she catches up to them, death is in his garden that he uses to dig up people's life forces." "People's life forces are buried in a garden?" Yeah, life forces are flowers, just keep up. The mother threatens to dig one up if Death doesn't give her her son back, and he scolds her for almost digging up somebody else's child. I think there's supposed to be a moral to it, but it ended so abruptly, I don't know, I couldn't find it. I skimmed through the worn pages, shaking my head. "And you think Death's Garden is just a quick road trip away?" "Quicker than you think," Alex said. He turned onto a less travel-worn road cutting through the gap between a wheat field and what might have been a potato field. "Listen to this. I tracked the geographical location she ran through while chasing Death, and she wound up stopping around Baton Woods. I don't even want to know how long you've been researching this. I'm telling you, it's been a solid 2 hours." I shoved the book into Alex's face. "She lost her eyes and her feet during those quests." Alex laughed and pushed the book away. "We're skipping the quest parts, don't worry." A slightly nauseating 2 hours later, Alex's truck coughed and even sneezed into a paralyzed heap, leaving us in a small clearing. "Well, guess it needs a rest." Alex pulled himself out of the driver's side window. I did the same. "So we're walking now?" "Unless you have a helicopter in that backpack, it looks like it." We trudged through the newly fallen leaves littering the ground, softly crunching with every step. Despite being potentially stranded, the atmosphere was quite peaceful. The air was slightly crisp. The smell of musty autumn mixed with the fresh edge of spring lingered around the warm bark of towering oak trees, tinged pink by the setting sun. "I can see why Death would want to settle down here," I said, stretching. Alex didn't answer. He just kept trudging. "Must be a nice break from all the cemeteries." Still nothing. "Why did you want to find this place anyway?" Alex turned, looking like he wanted to answer, then turned back and ducked beneath a fallen branch. "Okay. Weird." Hopefully, Alex's allergies were just acting up or something. I mentally went through what was in my backpack in case he needed something. EpiPen, bear spray, water bottle, inhaler, that weird book, headphones. Maybe they should listen to some music while they hike. That could help break up the silence. I went to grab my music when I realized something. Why was it so quiet? There was no wind, no birds, not even the whirring of a cicada. Just the quiet swishing of our feet against the leaves. "Hey, Alex?" "I found something." Alex stood by a rotting wooden door inset into a small hill, the iron handle barely hanging on by a final screw. Dense vegetation choked out any other signs of life or what might have been life. Alex put his hand to the handle and leapt back with a yelp. "Ah, it's freezing." "How?" I grabbed the handle and also recoiled. The cold bit straight into my bones. "Dang, I didn't think fingernails could feel cold," I muttered. Maybe wrap your hoodie around your hand, Alex suggested. I did, and the cold still bit, but not so viciously. I yanked, but the door didn't budge. Wrenching the door up, I dragged the wooden boards and iron fastening away from the wall. Now that the hinges were non-existent, it had just been leaning against the hole in the wall that was once a doorframe. Alex stared wide-eyed at the hallway behind it. A soft breeze drifted through my hair, like a final breath. The hallway was made of dirt supported by metal beams. Lanterns emitting blue light hung from the ceiling, barely illuminating the floor below. Quite the rabbit hole, I laughed, nudging Alex. Alex nodded. You should go first. Me? This was your idea. Yeah, but you have the pocket knife and the bear spray. I sighed. He was right. I pulled my knife out of my pocket and stepped into the hallway. It was chilly, but not uncomfortable. The loose earth squished beneath my sneakers. I squinted. The light from the lanterns was steady, but incredibly dim. The end of the hallway finally appeared in the form of an iron gate that stretched from ceiling to floor. A doormat on the other side read, "Here I lay my roots to rest." Why not just put a no soliciting sign up while you're at it? I muttered. The gate creaked open and I stepped into the garden. What sprawled before me made me drop my pocket knife. A glass ceiling stretched for what had to be miles, letting in a cluster of moonbeams through the dirty streaks. Stone planters hanging from the metal rafters or sitting on the concrete floor held a wide variety of ferns and flowers, all separated in their own pots or boxes. Roses, sunflowers, violets, even dandelions stared up at me from the nearest plant box, while what looked like a weeping willow, a spruce tree, and what had to be the beginning of a sequoia towered over a gardening station about 50 feet away. The smell of earth and manure filled my nose, making me sneeze, a horribly loud interruption of such a shocking discovery. Sorry, I muttered. I went to fish a tissue from my pocket and accidentally brushed a very dry-looking bluebell, sending paper-like petals falling to the floor. I think Death might want to water this one more. I stared at Alex. His eyes were emotionless, staring straight through mine. No twitch of the fingers or tugging at the corner of his mouth like it usually did right before he started laughing at a joke. Maybe we should help him out? I grabbed the water bottle from my pack. Alex latched onto my wrist. You could just say no. He pointed at the metal label sitting just in front of the bluebell pot. Fiona Fauna, August 2000. The breath caught in my throat. The label next to it read Joy Fauna, August 2000. And next to that, Rosario Fauna, 1972. The more I looked, the less I understood. Every flower, tree, bush, even moss had a name and a date. A wilting lily carried the name Walter Grounding, while an entire cherry blossom tree was called Faith Brown. Bet we can't find your name, Alex said, making his way to the work tables. I hope we don't. A cluster of hyacinth caught my eye. Bright blue petals with white centers covered 2 metal plates. I carefully pulled the flowers away to read the plate. Alex Clark, 2003, and Jerome Clark, 1999 to 2022. There was a hole where the second hyacinth plant would have grown. I cleared my throat. I found you. Alex didn't answer. I turned to see him facing a tall, dark figure wrapped in a dense tarp that covered anything resembling human features. The tarp was splattered with mud stains and small poke holes. Large metal claws peeked out from the figure's sleeves, emitting a cold steam, and those claws were reaching for Alex. Alex! I ran to the work table only to see Alex handing the tarp-covered man a single poppy. He turned to stare at me sorrowfully. The nameplate on the front of the poppy was mine. I skidded to a stop when the tarp-covered man turned to stare at me. Wait, what? I shook the sudden fog that had entered my head and finally sputtered, Alex, why? Alex tried to speak, but when his voice also failed him, he turned to reveal a dried hyacinth. The petals were colored slightly more purple than his, but most definitely similar. Jerome's hyacinth. I'm sorry, Alex croaked. The thing in the tarp curled a claw around my poppy. Instinctively, I snatched a wilted rose from a top shelf. The figure in the tarp lunged for me. So I ran. I ran through all the flowers, pulling some up when I got tangled in a web of vines called Zion. I ran through the dirt tunnel, hearing the tarped thing bang its head against all the blue lanterns hanging from the ceiling. I ran through the moonlit trees, kicking up leaves the entire way until I reached the truck. I flung the rose into the passenger seat and tore the door off its hinges. The keys were still in the ignition. "Come on, don't die on me today." I cranked the keys, making the engine cough. The rose in the passenger seat bounced precariously out of its pot. I cranked it again, more coughing and a sneeze. The tarp thing reared its head through the trees. Despite the coughing and sneezing, I threw the engine into reverse in preparation. The rose was flopping around on the floor now. The pot rolled around, throwing dirt on the seat. The nameplate glittered in the moonlight. Seeing the name tag, despite my better judgment, I scooped the rose off the floor and shoved the stem and pot into the cup holder. Whoever's rose this was shouldn't have to die with me. A frigid, tarp-covered claw reached for my windshield. One more desperate crank of the ignition sent me flying back into the trees. I clutched at the steering wheel and veered past the giant oaks that appeared out of the darkness. My eyes scanned the shadows for the path that took us here. There! I wrenched the truck into neutral and drove and spun the wheel to match the tires to the inset dirt path, shoved it into drive and floored it, spraying dirt and gravel behind me. After a few tense seconds of nothing but a cranky engine growling at me to break the silence, I checked my rearview mirrors. Nothing. No tarp man. No garden. No Alex. The rose in the cup holder bounced in time to the potholes in the road. Feeling a twinge of guilt, I scooped my water bottle out of my bag and poured a little water into the pot. "Sorry for kidnapping you," I said, screwing the lid back on. Whoever's rose this was, I hoped they were ready to be repotted somewhere outside of Death's Garden. The nameplate flashed in the moonlight again. "Hope you don't mind long midnight drives." The flower said nothing in response, as flowers do. The dark path ahead of me was still and silent the entire drive home. I never knew where to put the rose in my house and kind of carried it with me wherever I could for the next few days. I never heard from Alex again. I have no clue if he made it out of the garden, but after threatening to tear my life away from me, I found myself not caring what happened to him. I just hoped that he found his peace. As for the owner of the wilting rose, I'm sorry for stealing your soul. Now that I've explained myself, I hope you can understand why I had to do it. The rose is currently on my windowsill in my kitchen, where it can get the best sunlight. I water it regularly and have even talked to some of my botanist friends on how to best repot it since it's grown another bud. I promise I'll try my best to take care of your life source, until death inevitably comes back for the both of us.